Hello, guys. Hello, guys. Our previous stories have been about acquisition of African assets, such as the airport in Kenya, which is the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, which is a very important part of the African continent, of course, the majorly the East African region, and also the port in in Tanzania, which we mentioned that the same Indian man who is buying the airport or who is leasing, however much. However you want to call it, whether it is leasing, because 30 years, you would agree, is a long time, and also in Tanzania, where the same man Adani, who is an Indian, is leasing another port in Tanzania again for another 30 years, which is a very long time. It's an extremely long time. Now, today's story is about the acquisition of Uganda's dam, part ownership of one of Uganda's hydroelectric power dam, which is a capacity, or which has a capacity of around 250 megawatts. Uganda's installed capacity currently is around 1,300 megawatts. So this acquisition is coming under under Total Energies. We know Total Energies is a French company, but Total of recent, due to the challenges that France is facing within the Sahel region, and the fact that the former French colonies in Africa, the former African countries that were colonized by France, are rejecting France's moves. France has been creeping slowly into the English speaking countries, and we have seen it in countries like South Africa, Ghana. It has been pushing deeply into these particular countries, and even Kenya and other countries. We have seen it even in Uganda, that is part of the oil exploration in the East African region, especially in Uganda. So Total is creeping in. Now, what is happening is that some news has come out. Of course, it has not been mainstream, but Total Energies has acquired a huge stake in one of the power electric dams in Uganda. And let me show you especially what is happening here. You remember that when we were talking about an industrial revolution, that if you're going to carry out an industrial revolution, you need three key things. If you are going to talk about industrialization and improving the lives of your people, just like how Nkrumah was pursuing the process of industrialization of the African continent, you need three key components, which the experts like Jeremy Rifkin, who has written a book called The Third Industrial Revolution, mentioned that you have to acquire energy, access to energy. That is number one. Number two, you have to have a very strong, source of transportation. You have to have a very big, and good transportation, very quick, fast transportation. And then you have to have a communication network, very good communication network. These help you to go through an industrial revolution. The energy will help you to power the transportation system. All right. And of course, that includes road infrastructure, railway systems, because the railway, of course, we know is the cheapest form. But energy, what form of energy do you have? Is it electric energy? Are you going to use diesel to generate the electric energy? We all know that electric energy is almost indispensable in our era, that everything runs on electric energy, including the current trains. As we are seeing that the trains, Tanzania recently launched an electric train, that the trains themselves, even which used to run on diesel, now they run on electricity. Right now, the modern trains, the vehicles themselves, they are increasingly being electrified. Industries, all of them run on electricity. So that is a form of energy. Now, if you don't have a grasp, if you don't have a solid grasp on your, transport system, energy system that's going to power industrialization and the vehicles and other systems, if you don't have a grasp on your communication systems, then it's very difficult for you to industrialize rapidly. And that is why this is really extremely important when we talk about what Total Energies he is trying to do in Uganda, and the fact that it is creeping into the East African region, and especially if we talk about the former countries which were colonized by Britain, and this is due to the fact that this is due to the fact that the French are facing a lot of rejection in their former colonies. We have seen what happened in Burkina Faso. We have seen what happened in Mali. We have seen what happened, of course, in Niger, that they have been sacked out. Now, according to Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, these companies, of course, these countries, the former colonies, they depend now on monopoly capital, which is multinationals, and we have seen Total itself is a monopoly, company, especially when it comes to Africa's energy sector. It is a big player in the African energy sector. That everywhere you go, all across the African continent, you see almost everywhere Total Energy petrol stations. They refine. They have refineries. They drill, and they have refineries in Europe where they create a lot of jobs, and they bring back these products to the African continent to sell finished products. They market them on the African continent. That is why they have on the African continent. That is why they have a lot of these petroleum stations across the African continent. Now, because the era of non-renewable energies is going out, or the consumption of non-renewable source of energy is coming down, which is fossil fuels. Now, Total is shifting its strategy towards ownership of energy systems which are renewable, and that has to do with systems like what we are seeing, which is the bujagalidam dam, which dam has about 250 megawatts. Now, let us see what they are saying, because they want to own now infrastructure in these countries. That is what is happening. That these countries now, and the monopoly companies now, they want to shift their control to Africa's infrastructure. And of course, we can talk about railways and all these other systems. This dam was built by a consortium. Of course, it was not built by the Ugandan government, but it was built on the basis of public, so-called public-private ownership, whereby a consortium of companies came together, including the World Bank. They built this dam, and they would operate this dam for a period of 30 years and hand it back to the Ugandan government. Of course, what is disturbing in this situation is that you don't control that dam. And of course, even the Ugandan president in the past has complained about this particular dam which was constructed. Uganda has other power dams, but there is this particular one which is around the central region of the country. And of course, we will show the country Uganda where it is later on, so that you people can be able to appreciate, especially all Africans and all the Africans in the diaspora, is very important, so that you can understand what we are talking about. Now, what is happening here is that French energy giant Total Energies announced on Tuesday, which was last week actually. It was last week because this is 2nd August. 2nd August, I think it was a week before. So it announced on Tuesday the expansion of its renewables portfolio with new deals in Africa. So this is a threat actually on the African continent. This is a very big threat to the African continent, because remember, in China, these companies cannot go there and own energy assets. They cannot go there and own China's energy assets. It is not allowed. They cannot go there and own water, which is which is kind of different in Africa, that some of the heads of state, of course, they allow these companies to come in and own our assets. And this is something, of course, disturbing, whether we know it or not, is something which is very, very disturbing, that we need to think about it critically. This is the dam in itself. Now, what is the article saying? The article is saying that Total Energy is expanding. It announced on Tuesday that the expansion of its renewables portfolio with new deals in Africa. Now, the energy company bought 100% of SN Power, a subsidiary of a Norwegian renewable energy company, Scatec. The statement said, okay. Now, SN Power, in partnership with Norfund and the British International Investment, holds a stake of 51% in the renewable hydropower projects, across the African continent. Upon completion of the deal, Total Energy will gain 28.3% in Uganda's operational Bujagal hydropower plant. Okay, so now what this means is that of course, what it connotes is the same things that we have been talking about, the same things which Nkrumah, of course, taught us, how neocolonialism works. Now, what you are seeing here is that you have a group of companies which are from Europe, and they own these assets, on the African continent. They own these assets on the African continent. So that means every, a penny that you pay for power, because we pay for electricity, every penny you pay for power, all that money goes to Europe because they own some of these particular assets. And why this? All this is because of the failure of 1963 of unifying the African continent so that the African continent can be able to rely on itself, all right, in building up these infrastructure. And it is the continued failure even today of us to see the importance of a unified African continent. And therefore, we need to wake up as Africans. We need to stop being in our small cocoons where we claim that we are in Uganda, or we are in Zambia, we are in Tanzania, we are in Niger, we are in Egypt, because these are spaces which where we leave an opportunity for imperialism to penetrate and manipulate us. So this is what is happening. So the failure of Africa to unify from 1963, when Nkrumah pushed for its unification, up to today, is what is bringing about what we are seeing here. That now you have a company from Norway, Britain, and now you have France taking over. So they keep, sharing Africa's assets and juggling them between each other. They keep, pushing them between each other, sharing them. If you finish it, throw it to me. Let me have it. If you finish it, another one finishes it. Benefiting from it, throw it to me. So let me. So now Africa's assets and infrastructure become victims. They become victims, of Western, speculators on stock exchanges, like the New York Stock Exchange and all these London Stock Exchanges. So this is what is it is showing us. So upon completion of the deal, Total Energies will gain 28.3% stake in Uganda's operational hydro power plant. This is very, very dangerous for a sovereign country, even because this company, if you have a disagreement, like for example with Total or with France, France can tell its company that they should sabotage your power systems and your economy could collapse. So this is why this is extremely dangerous. With the capacity of 250 megawatts, the Bujagali hydropower plant covers more than 25% of the country's peak electricity demand. So you can see that this dam supplies about 25% of Uganda's electricity. So, which is very, very, is a big threat. This is a huge threat, to the national security of the country. The company will also acquire minority stakes in two projects. Now, this Total Energies actually is not going to stop in Uganda alone. It's going to acquire stakes in two projects under development in Rwanda and Malawi with a capacity of 260 megawatts and 360 megawatts. Now, what does this mean? What this means is that Africans pay money, they pay to Europeans to enjoy in Europe while people continue to suffer, all over our African continent. So this is what it means, that when they acquire all these dams, they acquire stakes in these dams, then whenever we pay money, we pay to them. So this is what happens. And what is all this? It is because of the failure of us unifying the continent, so that we can rely on ourselves and rely on our own industries, rely on our own capacity, because the unification of the African continent will give us capacity, to build our own facilities, build our own infrastructure all across the African continent. Because to be honest, the money is there. We have the money. Our economy, as a combined economy on the African continent, is around $3.5 trillion. So this economy, if India has the same economy, and we have even much more resources than India, and India is financing a lot of its, infrastructure, most of its infrastructure, huge, infrastructure projects we should be also able to finance all these infrastructure projects, even much more than India, because we have much more resources. We have land which is 12 times that of India on the African continent. All right, we have the same population, so this is an advantage that we should be able to develop rapidly. We have more resources than India, but yet we see that some of the African heads of state are traveling from the continent to go to India to to get financing, which is of course very unfortunate. And all this is because of the lack of understanding of what it means, to work together as Africans, of what it means to be united as Africans. And this is the problem. Now, this is the huge problem that the African continent is facing, the lack of understanding of what unity connotes, what unity connotes in its very meaning, that we will gain a lot of power. We will gain not only power in building our own infrastructure, but we will gain power even building, negotiating on the international stage, whether it is negotiating favorable loans, whether it's building our own defense mechanism, or mechanisms on the African continent. And like I said, this kind of project requires the participation of all Africans on the continent and in the diaspora. All right, this project of rebuilding Africa requires the participation of all Africans, including those in the diaspora, because this is not going to be an easy struggle. So commenting on the deal, Patrick Puyane, this is Patrick Puyane, of course, is the chairman and CEO of TotalEnergies. Remember that these multinational companies, of course, they serve their countries. They don't serve you. They don't serve Africa. They serve their countries. He said that the acquisition, the acquisition aligns with the company's commitment to Africa's energy, transition. Now, how does France's acquisition of Africa's assets, work, translate into Total's commitment to Africa's energy transition? It doesn't make sense. How does it translate into a benefit for the African continent? Of course, it doesn't match. It doesn't match. It doesn't match. It doesn't really match, because it's acquiring assets which are already functional. So, in particular, he said that in particular, we are delighted to be able to become a player in the hydropower in Uganda. Okay, a country where we are also developing a major oil project. Puyane said, as it is carried by the Monitor publications. So to date, TotalEnergies has interest in a number of hydropower projects with a gross capacity of 3.7 gigawatts worldwide. All right. So Nkrumah warned us about these monopolies. Succinctly, Nkrumah warned us about these monopolies and the fact that as Africans, if we don't unify, we're going to be eaten alive. All right. Nkrumah warned us about this, situation, these occurrences that are happening right now. If we don't unify as Africans, we're going to be eaten alive. And this requires us to work together as Africans to overcome these challenges that we are facing on the continent. All right. So it's very unfortunate. But anyway, what do you think about this acquisition by TotalEnergies? We have seen TotalEnergies, of course, also sponsoring the Africa football on many times, the African Cup of Nations. It has been on top of popularizing itself and making itself popular on the African continent. It may be favorable in the eyes of the African people. But what do you think? What do you think? How do we overcome these neo-colonial strategies and the fact that these people are attempting to buy up our assets? And of course, we see that this is complete colonialism, and there's no way we can industrialize as Africans if we don't have access, if we don't have control over our resources and infrastructure, which is going to enable us to go into the industrialization process of all the continent to create, of course, jobs for our people. What do you think? Please put that in the comment section and let us continue the discussion over there. You are 31 people on there. Please subscribe to the channel if you are new. Kindly like the video. You are 30 people. Let's have those 31 likes of the video. Like the video kindly and share it with others so that they can be able to understand what is going on in the world. Connect Africa is the only platform that you're gonna get all these news that is very important. We pick out the most important news across the continent and we concentrate there so that our people can be able to understand, of course, what is happening on the continent, but also how, to what extent imperialism is penetrating our continent. And of course, we ask you, what do you think we should do together, to make a contribution to the continent, both of you in the diaspora and those on the continent, because we are in this together. This journey we are in, we are on it together. And like I said, in this generation, like Franz Fanon said, we have to make a contribution. Every generation must find its mission and fulfill it, or fail. Okay, we must fulfill our mission in this generation. So what do we do? Put that in the comment section, what you think that we should do about these kind of occurrences. Do we need to come together as an organization? Do we need to support certain organizations? Do we need to set up, a group so that we can have a dialogue on what is happening on the African continent? And we need to seriously, of course, to commit ourselves to this particular, task of rescuing the African continent. What should we do? Put that in the comment section and let us continue to dialogue about it. Thank you so much for supporting Connect Africa. Thank you for those who are supporting, in the PayPal. Thank you for those who are supporting us with the super chat. Please continue to support us, with those platforms. We want to thank you once again, and God bless you all. I will talk to you next time.